Hello and welcome to Clearview Television. We are reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. First, the headlines. Celebration in Edo State following safe rescue of last two victims in Igweben train station kidnap. Family members of slain Kaduna NSCDC staff get checks, appointments from federal government. South Africa to hold joint military drills with Russia and China next month. I am Gloria Atta with these and more stories. Welcome. There is celebration in Edo State as the state government has announced the rescue of the last two persons who were abducted by armed men who attacked the Igweben train station in the state. The announcement was made by the State Commissioner for Communication and Orientation, Chris Nehikare, at a media briefing in Benin City. Nehikare also informed the media that some persons, including two local chiefs, are already in police net in connection with the incident.
A success story is the issue of the Igwebe kidnapping. We're pleased to announce that the last two victims have been rescued and seven suspects in custody, including two village chiefs. So we want to thank the press for the support they gave us in the last 1 week, at least, the last 1.5 weeks on this hostage. The way you've managed the information, the way you've reported it, the Edo State government is grateful, and we thank you very much.
But the Executive Director, Esan Youth for Good Governance and Social Justice, Benson Odia, told our correspondent that the chiefs were innocent, adding that their arrest had political undertone. With this development, all the kidnapped victims in the incident have been safely released. One of the resolutions of the Edo State First Executive Council meeting for the year 2023 is to call on the international community for assistance in its fight against Lassa fever. According to the government, the disease is spreading at an alarming rate, and the state is worried that all pleas and entreaties to the Federal Ministry of Health and relevant agencies for support to save the people from Lassa fever have been ignored. The council also discussed the Igweben train station kidnap and environmental pollution.
The rescue of all hostages of Igwebe train station incident and the subsequent arrest of 7 suspects, including 2 village chiefs, has really put Edo State in the news of late. This feat, where all victims of kidnapping are released within few days, is unique. This development was one of the 3 main issues discussed at the Edo First Executive Council meeting. In a release by the Commissioner for Communication and Orientation, Chris Nehikare, and made available to Clearview TV, the increasing number of Lassa fever cases in the state, as well as measures to contain the spread of the deadly disease, were also deliberated upon, after which the Council resolved that it has become expedient to call on the international community, specifically the World Health Organization (WHO), the United Nations Children's Fund (UNICEF), and other agencies within the global health ecosystem with a mandate to intervene in infectious disease outbreaks. The release adds that this call has become necessary as the Nigerian government has clearly abandoned Edo State and the people in the fight against Lassa fever, which is spreading at an alarming rate. Clearview TV gathered that pleas and entreaties to Federal Ministry of Health, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and other federal agencies to come and support the state to save our people from Lassa fever have been ignored. According to the EXCO, it is particularly disheartening, especially as the current Minister for Health, Dr. Osagie Ehanire, is from Edo State.
Every praise
At the beginning of this production, mention was made of the Igwembe train station kidnap. The council was informed that the remaining 2 hostages had been rescued and 7 suspects, including 2 village chiefs, have been arrested and currently in police custody. The State Executive Council also gave a March 31, 2023 deadline to owners and operators of hotels, nightclubs, lounges, churches, and mosques, as well as event centers, to soundproof their facilities from polluting the environment with noise levels above the set standards. Recall that at the October 2022 meeting with these operators, the Edo State government issued the directive.
The Commandant General of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Audi, has condoled with officers and men of the families of 7 personnel who were ambushed and killed by bandits in Birnin Gwari, Kaduna State. Addressing officers and men as well as bereaved families at the NSCDC Kaduna Command Headquarters when he personally visited to pay condolences, the CG stated that the Corps had in the past lost officers in line of duties, but not as much as compared to the Birnin Gwari tragic incident. Audi, who described the killing as colossal, however, charged other personnel not to be deterred by the ugly incident, but should continue to put in their best for a more secured country. The Corps helmsman hinted that he had initiated the process of payment of death benefits and other entitlements to the affected officers through the Office of the Minister of Interior to ameliorate the pains of those they left behind. He later presented checks of undisclosed amount of money to next of kin of the 7 fallen heroes as a token of support, pending the payment of their accrued benefits. Furthermore, he announced the approval of 1 slot for each family as replacement of the slain officers by the Minister of Interior, Rauf Arubishola. As Nigerians count down to the 2023 general elections, the Nigeria Police Force has charged its personnel to be forthright and never to compromise the integrity of the force in the coming polls, but to work towards its success. Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 14, Edward Ebuka, gave the charge during a visit to the Kaduna State Police Command. AIG Edward charged the police personnel to collaborate with other security agencies and continue the onslaught against the terrorists and other criminal elements in the state.
We also reviewed the Commissioner of Police security strategies for the successful conduct of the forthcoming election in the country. The level of synergy we have with stakeholders, particularly the state government, independent National Electoral Commission, the other security agencies, and the military. The strategies to tackle the banditry in some of our frontline local government areas in the state where this menace have been ongoing.
He reminded the personnel of police philosophy of ensuring security of lives and property.
I also want to use this opportunity to warn the personnel, in line with the IGP's directive, IGP Usman Akali Baba, all efforts must be made to ensure that the integrity of this forthcoming election is not compromised in any way in the country, particularly as it concerns us here in the state, Kaduna State.
It is my assurance to the AIG that my officers, my men, and indeed myself are sufficiently motivated and fully charged to work for the actualization of the police reform agenda of the Inspector General of Police. We will always repay this undiluted love with our total loyalty and unwavering commitment and dedication to our statutory duties.
And still talking politics, Benue State Governor Samuel Otom this Thursday claimed that the Yochia Ayu-led People's Democratic Party leadership was not sincere in reconciling the aggrieved governors under the platform. He also said the party leadership should be held responsible should the reconciliation moves fail. He alleged that the Ayu-led EXCOs were not putting the right measures in place to address the G5 governors' demand. Otom disclosed this in an interview with journalists. The G5 governors include Samuel Otom, Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, Ikeazu Ikpeazu of Abia, Sheyi Makinde of Oyo, and Ifeanyi Ugwanyi of Enugu State. He pointed out that the leadership of the PDP should have been proactive and humble in addressing members' grievances. Former Anambra State Governor and Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi says if elected to power, his administration will invest heavily in the youths for them to contribute meaningfully to the development of Nigeria. The presidential hopeful stated this during an interactive session with some youth groups before his campaign rally in Kaduna State. Obi noted that youths are the future of Nigeria, hence the need to empower them to contribute their quota to national development.
The youth are the future. We need to invest in them. The crisis you see in Nigeria today is those we abandoned yesterday and refused to care for. Yes. Have become a problem. Yes. And we must go back and care for them. Those people who failed to educate yesterday, those people who failed to invest in yesterday, have suddenly not allowed us to sleep. We must start reversing it. The only way to reverse it is to invest in the youth. We have near 40% unemployment in Nigeria. We have near 60% youth unemployment. So you have young people in their productive age with talent doing nothing. They don't know where the next meal will come from. If you don't know where the next meal will come from, nobody can predict what it is.
Peter Obi said he will aggressively pursue agricultural revolution that will take Nigeria out of food scarcity and poverty.
The greatest physical assets of this country is the cultivated land in the north. Nigeria cannot be hungry. It's impossible. There's no reason why we can't feed ourselves. If you look at the poorest places in Nigeria today, the poorest state in the north today, almost 8 or 9 is from the north. And it will shock you. These are states that can solve their problem. The biggest number one state is Niger. Niger is 76.3 thousand square kilometers. Fertile land. Fertile land. And they are waiting to take, that's why we said we're going to move Nigeria from consumption to production. They are waiting to share from the statutory allocation. As I speak to you, almost 7 local governments in Niger State is under control of bandits.
He also vowed to ensure gender balance and appointment of women to key positions. Yaga Africa, a civic non-governmental organization promoting democracy, good governance and development in Africa, has said that it will deploy the parallel vote tabulation method to monitor the credibility of election results in the much-anticipated February 25th presidential election. This piece of information was disclosed this Thursday in Abuja at a media roundtable on the group's election observation deployment strategies for the 2023 elections. The Parallel Vote Tabulation (PVT) is an advanced election observation methodology used for independent verification of election results. It involves observation of the voting and counting of ballots at the polling units, collection of official polling station results, and independent tabulation of these results parallel to the election authorities. With only 37 days to the presidential elections, Yaga Africa, a civic non-governmental organization involved in Nigeria's electoral observation, says it is once again deploying the parallel vote tabulation technology to monitor and assess the process at the polls. Speaking at a media roundtable, the executive director of the organization, Samson Itodo, says Nigeria over the years has experienced a decline in public participation in issues of governance and electoral processes due to a lack of trust in the credibility of the electoral process, and therefore stressed on the need to protect the integrity of elections to foster citizens' participation in governance. He noted that the deployment of new technologies in the country's electoral process will bring new dynamics to how election processes are managed in the country.
As we look towards 2023 elections, there are 4 objectives that we want to achieve. The first one deals with providing citizens with a repository of accurate, simplified, and concise information on the electoral process to improve turnout as well as the quality of public participation. The second, we want to limit election manipulation through our trends analysis as well as strategic advocacy. The third, we want to protect the integrity of the 2023 elections through data-driven election observation. And lastly, is to provide technical support to marginalized groups who are on the ballot for 2023 elections.
Also speaking at the event, the national president, Nigerian Union of Journalists, Chris Isiguzo, urged journalists to be objective in their reportage before, during and after the elections and be ambassadors of peace, unity and development of Nigeria.
I'm also happier that this gathering is for journalists, and it brings to the fore the very important, crucial role of the media in the delivery of credible election, free, fair, transparent election.
The 2023 general election, to me, is one that will define the future of Nigeria. And as critical stakeholders, we have a role to play. We must make deliberate and conscious effort to divorce ourselves from the coloration that the political landscape has already assumed.
Yaga Africa added that it will deploy 822 long-term observers across the 774 local government areas in the 36 states of the Federation to track and report on the activities of the Independent National Electoral Commission before the elections. It is also deploying 3,014 stationary, 48 mobile citizen observers to a representative random sample of 1,507 polling units across the states of the Federation, as well as 774 observers to local government areas collation centers during the presidential elections to report on key activities during the electoral process. If you are just joining us, you're watching the news on Clearview television. When we come back, we bring you stories on women and children. Stay with us.
The news continues now with stories from our area of specialization, women and children. After the main transmission of our news, we rebroadcast on our YouTube page, Clearview TV. Do you operate a women or children's NGO? Are you at the helm of affairs of a government establishment or a corporate organization involved in the affairs of women and children? Then you are our partners in progress. We have a mission to better the lot of our women and children. Join us to celebrate womanhood and work assiduously to better the lot of the Nigerian child. This is our mission.
Welcome back. Out of the 93.4 million registered voters, 37 million of them are youths. This calls for a greater need to educate and remind young people of the power they have to turn things around politically. Love World Next is already thinking in this direction with the intention of awakening the consciousness of young Nigerians, hence the introduction of Strategic Political Response in National Transformation Project, SPRINT. Clearview TV's Florence Joshua was there and now reports.
The inclusion of young people in political and electoral processes cannot be overemphasized. These strata of the population are the most active and their contributions can bring democratic values to bear and eventually lead to an overturn of authoritarian practice. In most countries of the world, young people have led protests that have forced authoritarian regimes from power when they are likely to feel significant frustration. The 2023 elections in Nigeria are proving to be a game changer in the country as more young people are interested in determining the course of their lives. Derek Ezeko, President Love World Next, who spoke at the unveiling of the Sprint project, said the youth are the future and they are ready to provide the needed training and support.
We believe that meaningful youth participation and leadership require the young people and young people-led organizations have opportunities, capacities, and benefits from an enabling environment and relevant evidence-based programs and policies at all levels. This campaign is positioned to, number one, promote youth participation in inclusive political processes and democratic practices geared towards nation building. Number two, to promote youth involvement and presence in political offices and decision-making at all levels, to galvanize the youth across Nigeria to participate in the coming elections in February 2023, to discourage youth involvement in election violence.
Nigerian youths can organize themselves into a formidable social bloc for a stronger voice for sensitization, advocacy, leadership recruitment, and capacity building on electoral matters using multimedia platforms.
Executive Director, Clean Foundation, Gad Shamaki, Speaker, Nigerian Youth Parliament, Azizat Ishua, used the occasion to task the youth to start having the right conversations and to ensure they vote in leaders that can be held accountable.
In Nigeria as of today, the part of the country where you come from will decide whether you're going to have your next meal or not. And embarrassingly and disturbing to me is the fact that even young persons have been divided along ethnic and religious lines. They were no longer discussing issues. We're discussing which part of the country are you coming from. We're discussing the candidate based on our selfish and other interests. We're not looking at the merit of the issues they are bringing to the table. In all of these election, issues are not being discussed. People just wake up with sentiment and they run with it. And therefore, don't sit and wait for change to come. Push for that change and demand for that change.
What are we doing in our regard to ensure that INEC carries out its responsibility, to ensure that citizens, young persons like you and I, especially first-time voters, have their PVC in their hands? It's our responsibility as young people who seem to be conscious of what is necessary for youth development and for development of our country to serve as watchers, to serve as agents of accountability.
Love World Next has made a great impact on the lives of young adults and professionals through several programs, foundations, award, grants, trainings, and more. When it comes to the Kingdom Life operating on the physical realm, Love World Next has you covered with the highest level of teaching and coaching you can get. Florence Joshua, reporting for Clearview Television.
The Nigeria healthcare system will ultimately become a medical hub with a major investment deal coming on board through the establishment of the Africa Medical Center for Excellence, AMC. Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, Chairman CEO Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, stated this in Abuja while receiving Mr. Brian Diva, the CEO AMC, and his team, who paid her a courtesy call on Wednesday in her office. She noted that a number of Nigerian professionals in the healthcare industry were beginning to invest in the sector in Nigeria. The NIDCOM boss said with the volume of medical facilities planned for the center, it will go a long way to reduce brain drain of medical professionals and a game changer in medical tourism. Dabiri Erewa added that having NIDCOM on board as partner will help attract Nigerian medical personnel working in the diaspora to tap into their expertise and capacity building. And on the foreign scene, South Africa's military has announced it will next month hold joint military drills with Russia and China off its coast. The drills will run for 10 days from 17th February to 27th February in the port city of Durban and Richards Bay. The South African National Defence Force said the aim is sharing operational skills and knowledge. South Africa was among African countries that abstained from taking sides in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The country assumed the chairmanship of the BRICS group of nations, which brings together Brazil, Russia, India, and China, last month. This will be the second time such a military drill is taking place. The first was held in November 2019 in Cape Town. And that's the news, but before we go, a recap of the top stories. There is celebration in Edo State following the rescue of the last two persons who were abducted by armed men at the Igweben train station in the state. The announcement was made by the State Commissioner for Communication and Orientation, Chris Nehikare, at a media briefing in Benin City. The Commandant General of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC), Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Audi, has presented checks of undisclosed amount of money to next of kin of the 7 fallen heroes who were ambushed and killed by bandits in Birnin Gwari, Kaduna State. The federal government has also given approval of 1 slot each for the family as replacement of the slain officers. We also told you that South Africa's military has announced it will hold joint military drills with Russia and China off its coast. The drills will run for 10 days from 17 February to 27 February in the port city of Durban and Richards Bay. Remember to like us on Facebook, Clearview Television. Follow us on Twitter at Clearview TV. Follow us on Instagram at ClearviewTV_NG. And also remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Clearview TV. Many thanks for watching. I am Gloria Atta.